All right, hello everyone, and Happy New Year. I'm back, and I'm going to continue creating some videos for the online AWD1100 C# programming class for spring 2024, based on the PowerPoint slides for our textbook, Muroc C# 8th edition. We're up to Chapter 6, How to Code Methods and Event Handlers. Given specs for a method, write the method. Given the documentation for a method, including its signature, use the method. Give a portion of code that can be converted to a method call using refactoring. And our objectives: describe the signature of a method, describe an expression-bodied method, explain the difference between passing an argument by value and by reference, describe the use of optional arguments, describe the advantages of passing arguments by name, describe the use of a tuple as the return type for a method, and in general terms, describe how event layering works in C#, what you need to do to delete an event, and how you can use one event handler to handle two or more events. So what you see here is an example of a parameter. Really, it's an example of a method, and the method has no parameters. How do I know that? There's nothing within the parentheses. It also returns nothing. How do I know that? Two ways. Number one, there's no return statement. Number two, the return type is set as void. So this particular event will disable a calculate button and an exit button, and that's it. That's all it's doing. All right. Here's a method that has one parameter. The one parameter is a decimal type, and it's known as subtotal. All right. That's known as the formal parameter name. It doesn't have to actually have that name when you pass it in, but that's the name it'll be referred to inside of the method that's called getDiscount%. In addition, this method, getDiscount%, returns a decimal. So where you've got the return here, discount%, that must be of type decimal, and you can see that it is. Here's a method with three parameters. This goes back to before, much earlier in the semester, when we talked about future value. So here you're passing in three values: a decimal value that equates or represents the monthly investment, another decimal value that represents the monthly interest rate, and an integer value or whole number which represents the number of months. And again, it's returning a decimal. Future value must be defined. So this type right here must be the same as this type here, and when you define it, it must be of that type. So these were basically the three examples that we just saw. All right, now they talk about the IntelliSense feature for calling a method. And when you do set up methods, you will get help. All right, for lack of better words. I'm going to throw up something here. It's going to be real simplistic. Let's see. So I'm going to start a brand new session of Visual Studio, create a new project, and really, I think at least with what we're doing, console will probably be fine. All right, and we'll just call this Chapter 6 stuff. Kind of a stupid name, but it'll work. So let's go out here and let's create a folder out here that we will call Chapter 6. All right, and we will put the stuff in there. And we will call the solution just Chapter 6, not Chapter 6 stuff. All right. In fact, let's make this, so we're consistent, we'll make this Chapter 06 stuff, and we'll make the name of our solution Chapter 06. All right. Now, I want to show you a couple things because this can confuse people. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. I'm going to come in here and let's see. Again, everything I'm doing right now, got to warn you, I'm making it all up off the top of my head. Honest to goodness. I have nothing written down. I have no notes. So if I screw up, you'll know it as soon as I do it. But what I want to do here, let's see. Let's pretend we're doing a baseball program, okay? And I'm going to have here, how many hits did you have? All right, so I'm going to have here int hits equals 27. I'm making this up. Int ABs, the at-bats, equals 200. All right, and now I'm going to show you two different ways because what I want to do here is I want to figure out the average, which is the hits divided by the at-bats. All right, now could I do it right in here? The answer is of course I can. I can say, how about decimal average? Now if I say equals hits divided by at-bats, and then I go in and I do a console.writeLine, and I put here the average is plus AVG dot toString. I can even do it to 3 decimal places. Not going to probably give you what you think. And then I'm going to do a console.readLine, just so you can see this. In fact, we'll do this. I'm going to say the number of hits is, and that's going to be hits. And we don't need to do any formatting because that's a whole number. The number of at-bats is, and that's ABs. And again, that'll be nothing in here. Oops. And then we'll have the average. Okay, well, let's run it and see what you get. So file, save all. Look what we get. The number of hits is 27. I shouldn't have formatted that one. The number of at-bats should be just 200, and the average is 0. Why the heck do we get 0? First of all, let's get rid of this. And second, let's say number instead of number. All right. And we'll just do it like this so it lines up a little better. All right. So let's run it again. And now we get the number of hits is 27. The number of ABs is 200. The average is 0. Why would the average be 0? It's because when you divide an integer by an integer, you throw away the decimal portion. How do you fix that? 3 ways. I can either come here and say decimal. All right, like that. That's called casting. Or I can come here and do a decimal. Or as it's being shown, I can do both. Look at the difference now. I now have a batting average. Not a very good one, but I have a batting average. All right. Now, why did I show you all that? There was actually a reason for that. I want to take this right here, and I want to do this in a different routine. We'll even do this in a different routine. So let's come down here, and I'm going to create a new routine. It's going to be static. It's going to return a decimal, and it's going to be called compute average. And it needs the number of hits and the number of at-bats. Now, I can come in here and say int hits, int ABs, and do just what we did before as far as I can return this. Just like that. And guess what? It's going to work just fine. Now, get rid of that. Now, I don't have the average in here anymore, so don't worry about it. We'll fix it right now. But I can come in here and I can say this. AVG for, decimal AVG equals compute average and pass in the hits and the at-bats. Now I believe I'm going to have the same exact answer that I had before. And indeed I do. So what changed in this example? I called another routine and I passed into that routine the hits, so that passed 27, and the ABs, and that passed in 200. And it worked just fine. Again, I could even take this now and write a new routine here. So static void print stats, and I need the hits. Let's give them different names. H, the at-bats, A, B, and the average. And that was a decimal. Now I'm printing out all of those. Now, don't worry, it might even give me some errors. Why? Because we called it H there, so it's got to be changed to H. Here we called it AB, so we have to change that to AB. All right? But we're not calling that. So if we run this right now, you're not seeing anything because we didn't call this routine print stats. So we can now call print stats and pass in our hits, our at-bats, and our average. And now when we do this, we'll get the same results that we had previously. There you go. Now, why am I showing you all this? Two reasons. First of all, I want you to see and understand the difference between these two lines. In line 16, we are creating a new variable called AVG. And that new variable is going to be returned from a routine called compute average, and that compute average needs a hits and it needs an at-bats. Again, we do have to cast. We don't have to cast them both like I did, but either cast both or this one or this one. But if I leave them both off, that decimal and the parens, if I leave them both off like that, hey! All right, if I leave them both off of there, sorry about that, my dog just jumped on the furniture. All right, if I do that, all right, if I just come in here and I don't cast, we're going to have zeros again. Now, what if I don't want to do it like this? All right, here I'm saying decimal average equals this. What if I want to set the average right in here? Now you'll notice we say decimal average, but we're not, what I'm going to do, all right, I'm going to say decimal average just like this, and I'm going to put nothing there. So it hasn't been set. Now I'm going to call compute average, and I'm going to pass the average in. Now, I'm going to change this in just a minute. All right. Now, when you look at this, it's like, what does it say here? It says use of unassigned local variable average. I'm trying to go and pass average, and it doesn't have any value. I could set it to 0 here, but I believe I can also put the word out in here. No, didn't like that. Argument 3 may not pass with the out keyword. Think it can be if I put out here. All right. Now what I'm going to say is this. All right, and I don't have to return anything. Now, I just made massive changes in here. Why am I doing all this? To show you the different ways that you can do the same thing. So here I'm declaring a variable. Remember, this declares the variable. This initializes the variable. This declares the variable. This initializes the variable. So these two are both variable declarations and variable initializations. In line 16, I'm declaring a variable, but I'm not initializing it. In other words, it doesn't have any value. I want to be able to set the value inside of here. That's why I'm passing it in as what's called an out parameter. All right. Is there another way I can do this? The answer is yes. If I come in here and I say decimal average and I set that equal to 0.000M, all right, then I think I can now come in here and type in ref right here and ref right there. And I believe it's still going to work. Let's double check. And we get the same answers. Why all these different ways? Well, here I'm passing what's called a reference to average. All right, so basically I'm passing the variable itself and I'm going to allow it to be changed. These two are copies. So even if for some reason I was foolish enough to change these in here, which I can do, the original value is not changed. Here, if I say out or if I say ref, I am changing the actual value. All right, now that may or may not make a lot of sense, but hopefully as we go on and look at more and more of this stuff, it'll make more and more sense. All right, and maybe I saw that. Let's see once. Let's go look at that. It says IntelliSense feature. When I came in here, now if I type in again compute average and I put in the parent, look what the system is showing me. It says, oh, you'll probably want to pass in this, and you'll probably want to pass in this. Now it's not done. First of all, it should say compute, not computer. All right. But it's now telling me, wait a minute, something's wrong here. All right. And it says there's no argument that responds to that. But we do have one that responds down here. So it's showing us we need the ref in there. So it needs to be a ref with average, like that. All right. So what doesn't it like? Oh, I'm sorry, it's not there. It's right here. Here we go. So we wanted in here, we wanted hits and at bats and then our ref. Whoops. There. So there's a lot of different ways of doing the same thing is all I'm trying to show you here. All right. All right, let's jump back into the book. And I showed you a little bit of the IntelliSense. Okay. Now, next here they have optional parameters. And I've given the example I'm about to give you right now to class before, or the class is, and sometimes they seem to get it, and sometimes maybe they're a bit confused. Let's imagine that I was writing some kind of an application for people at Rankin Technical College. All right. And in this application, I was going to ask in there a person of, let's say, 7 pieces of information: first name, last name, address, city, state, zip code, and phone number. All right, those 7 pieces of information. Well, I don't know what the exact statistics are, but if somebody told me that 90% plus of people who go to Rankin live in Missouri, I'd believe that. So what I could do is I could set up, like I could say string state equal, and I could put double quote MO double quote, which means that if I were to call a routine and not pass in the state would default optionally, to Missouri. Now, in the case they have here, it's not exactly the same thing. It's the same principle, but we have 3 different parameters. The first one, the decimal monthly investment, must be passed. I want to say that again. It must be passed. Some decimal for that. But it is possible to call this calculate future value. And let's say I passed in there 1,000. And that's all I passed. Then this would default to 5%, and this would default to 12 months. All right, so I can call this, and I can either pass in one thing, a monthly investment, or 2 things, a monthly investment and a different interest rate, but it would still default to 12 months, or I can pass in all 3 things. All right? So again, there are multiple ways of working with this. And these optional parameters are just that. If you know that often you'll be passing the same thing in, then optional parameters can make a lot of sense. So here, they're passing in all 3 parameters. Here they're passing in just the first 2. All right, and as I mentioned, you could pass it in with just 1. Now, the next thing they talk about in here is passing in arguments by name. The biggest advantage of passing things in by name is exactly what's shown right here. What? When you pass them in by name, you can pass them in any order. Here, we must pass in those parameters. Whatever you pass in, whatever number you pass in is going to be the investment. Whatever number you pass in second will be the rate. Whatever number you pass in third will be the months. And it has to be decimal, decimal, int. Here, since we're using names, you can pass them in any order you want. Some people like that, okay? All right. Now they're passing the first one in here by position because it's the first one, the monthly investment. Then they're passing the second one in by name. And this is actually really important because what one are we leaving out of here? And the answer is the one that we're leaving out is the monthly interest rate. It's the second of the 3 parameters. And if you didn't do this and give this one a name, it would think that months represents the second parameter, which is the monthly interest rate. All right. Now they're going to show here, if you look at these 2 examples, all right, it's kind of, for lack of better words, it's kind of the old school and the newer school way of doing the same thing. All right. When you've got just a single statement like this, like it's shown right here, this is more the tried and true way of doing it. This is more the newer way of doing it. Let's see. I don't know. I have never tried this. So I'm going to write now, and that is, this was our average, right? So let's see. Let's see if we can redo this one. I'll leave this one here, but I'm going to comment it out. Then I'm going to put it back in here, but I'm going to write it the other way. What do I mean? I'm going to write here, and now I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to get rid of this. See the difference? It's a little more compact. I don't have a lot of room here, but technically, I could have literally put this all on the same line. Totally legit, totally fine to do that if I wanted to do that. So now it's just one line. And in fact, remember, we only have to take one of these 2 things and cast them. So if I run this now, I should get the same exact answer that I got before. And you'll see that I do. All right. So that's using an expression body, okay? Now, if you're going to put more than one line, this doesn't exactly work like this. You'd still need the curly braces, all right? In fact, I think if I leave the curly braces in here, and I could be wrong, we'll find out right now. I don't think it's going to give me an error. We'll see. And it does. All right, and it says invalid token. So it does not like the curly braces. I know in other languages you would be able to do that. All right, and again, we don't need this. So this is, again, I've shown you now, these two things are identical. All right, if you do run out of room, again, nothing wrong at all with putting it down on a new line. Or you can leave it on the line it was on. It really and truly does not matter. All right. Okay, a method that returns the value of an expression or an expression body. And again, what you'll notice in here is the thing that's different, all right, is the first line right up here. And then putting it, the whole thing in curlies. And then down here, and notice there is no curly here, curly brace, but there is one down here. So this return that's in here is virtually the same as the switch you see right here. All right. So again, there's all sorts of different ways of doing the same thing. All right. Now, before we go on, I wanted to show you something. And in fact, I think what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to go back to the program we've been working on right here. All right. Now I'm going to take, believe it or not, everything that's in here and I'm going to comment it out. Okay. Everything. Why? Because I want to show you something. All right. So I'm just going to write this all over again. We could write a new program. I'm going to leave it like this. And I'm going to put in here int number grade. Let's do it like this. We'll write routines. Input, how about this? Number grade, int number grade, equals input number grade. I'm getting an error because I haven't written that routine yet. We'll write it in a minute. String letter grade equal calculate letter grade. And again, if you do want to line these up, you can do that. And then finally, print grades, and we'll pass in both the number grade and the letter grade. And again, we're getting these errors because we haven't written these routines yet. So let's write them right now. Okay, the first one is called input number grade. So it's going to have to return a whole number. So it'll be private static int input number grade. Notice as soon as I do this, if I just come in here and just return 0, for example, just so there's something there, now that error is gone. All right, well, it's not correct the way it is. Let's go up to the top here, and we're going to make two constants. Const int min number grade equals 0. Const int max number grade equals 100. So imagine you're taking a test, and the lowest grade that you can get is a 0. You didn't take it, you failed it, you didn't answer any questions, whatever. And the highest you can get is 100, meaning you got everything right. So we're going to tell them to read in their grade. All right, so I'm going to make a string here that I'm going to call ng for number grade, and it's going to say, we'll leave it like that. Now I'm going to say console.writeLine, enter number grade between 0 and 100. All right, so ng equal console.readline. Looks good. All right, now I want to convert that to an actual number grade. So int number grade. Now remember, when I try doing this, it can fail. I'm going to show you that in a minute. All right. There it's going to try to convert it right there. All right. Now, if the number grade is less than the minimum number grade, all right, so if I put in a negative number, or the number grade is greater than the maximum number grade, so if you did one or the other, I want you to do it again. All right, so I'm going to grab all of this, and I'm going to put it in here. And instead of putting it in as an if, I'm going to put it in as a while. All right, so I'm going to be stuck in here until I put in something that's valid, unless I come in here and type in an illegal value. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that in just a second. All right, so let me come in here because, let's see, right there. I'm going to type in right here, readline, console.readline. Otherwise, it's going to just fly right off the page. All right, so I'm going to run this. And as you can see, it says enter a number grade between 0 and 100. That should have been a right, not a right line. But I'm going to put in here 1,000, which is too big. And it tells me to do it again. I'm going to put in something too small. And it tells me to do it again. I'm going to put something within range. And it worked. Okay, well, that's good. But what if I do this? And I leave it blank. Now I get an error message, because it's expecting a number and I gave it something non-numeric. So that should say right, and so should this. All right. Now we're going to learn in a very future chapter, very coming up, how to fix that. All right, but don't worry about it for right now. Okay, so we now got the number grade. Let's do the letter grade. So string letter grade equal calculate letter grade. Okay, and so that's going to be a static string, because it's going to return a letter grade, A, B, C, D, or F. All right, and it's going to be calculate letter grade. All right, so LG, string LG for letter grade. Right now we don't have one. All right, so let's see if we can write one of these new switch statements in here. And they're so new that I haven't written them very often. So let's see. But I want to learn because I want to be able to teach them to you. So let's see. C# switch statement with range. Can I use a range? That's what I want, is this. Okay? If what I'm doing right now makes no sense, just bear with me for a second, if you would, please. So we're going to say here, switch on, well, we're going to need to know what the number grade was. So when we call this routine to give us a letter grade, we'll have to pass in the number grade. All right, we're getting an error because we need to put that in here too. So this will be int ng for number grade. All right, and this should be letter grade, LG. And we don't need this. Oops, yes we do. All right, this is the figuring out the number grade. This is our letter grade. So we'll put in here int ng for number grade. All right, we're going to switch on that number grade. All righty. This is so cool because you used to not be able to do this. Let's see. Oh, I'm using an older version, so it's not going to let me do this. I'm using version 8, and this is a version 9 feature. Okay. So let's look in here. So switch statement with multiple conditions. Switch, okay, C8, multiple cases. Working with expressions, switch expressions. C8. Maybe I can't use this. I don't know. It's not what I'm looking for. Switch expression C# 8.0. This is the old way of doing it. All right, I want to see if there's a new way of doing it. And I don't know if there is. Switch expressions and pattern matching. It may not be, what I'm trying to show you may not be possible in the version of the language that we're using. Well, I don't want to waste your time watching me fumble around. So let's just do it like this. All right, we'll just use an if. So if the number grade is greater than or equal to 90, then the letter grade, LG for letter grade equals A. Else, if the number grade is greater than or equal to 80, the letter grade is equal to B. Else, if the number grade is greater than or equal to 70, the letter grade is equal to C. Now, Rankin doesn't give D's, but we're going to suppose that what we're doing here does. All right, we could just leave this out if we were just doing it for Rankin. Not a default, that's an else. And we don't want E, we want F. All right, that'll work just fine. But we have to return that. So we now got an LG, so we have to return LG. And it's got to be moved up. That's why we're getting the error. So that should be just return LG. All right. Then down below at the bottom, we want to print both of these out. So print grades. So we want to call print grades down here. And we've got an integer for the number grade and a string for the letter grade. Don't want a semicolon there. And I'll just do two console.write lines. number grade it is a number, but it doesn't have to be formatted at all, and then letter grade. All right, this should work just fine, I would think. And let's put a read line after this. Otherwise, again, it'll fly right off the screen. Okay. All right. So we run this. Enter a grade between 0 and 100. Again, if we put something out of range, so -2, it doesn't take it. We put something 101, it doesn't take it. If we put in here the person got a 96, it should say their grade was a 96, and their number grade was a 96, and their letter grade was an A. Oops. And it does. All right. Now, to test this, it would be kind of nice. I don't want to just stop it and run it again, then run it again, then run it again, etc. I don't want to do that. All right. So let's do this. Inside of main here, I've got int number grade equal this, int letter grade equal this. I think I should be able to do this while 1 equal 1. I think I can do that. And I'm going to put here console.clear. So every time I run a new one, I'll clear the screen. All right, and I did have that console.readline here, so I don't need it down here. Now I should be able to keep running it, which is nice because what I want to do is I want to keep running it so that now it's telling me that okay, I'll have to move that too. Okay, I should be able to keep running it over and over and over again is what I'm telling you. All right, so save all. So enter a number grade. I'm going to put something out of range. All right. Good. Now let's just try them all. 100. That's an A. 95 should also be an A. Now it said greater than or equal to 90. So 90 should be an A. But 89 should be a B. And it is. 80 should be a B. 79 should be a C. 70 should be a C. 69 should be a D. 60 should be a D. And 59 and below should be an F. Okay? So I've shown you how we can work with all this stuff. Now, we could have gone in with this number grade that's right here. I didn't do it like this. But again, there's plenty of ways that we could do this. What I mean is, we could have said here int number grade equal, all right? And when we inputted this, it's kind of, I don't like doing programming the way I'm going to show it to you, but I think this would work. We'll just say int number grade right here. And that's all we're going to put in. Just like that. All right, then in the next line, we're going to say number grade equals input number grade, and we'll pass in there out number grade. Just so I can show you that out parameter that we looked at before. Since we said it's an out here, we have to make it an out down here. Out ng for number grade. Out int ng for number grade. So now this ng right here is going to take the place of this. In fact, let's just call it the same thing. Now we don't need this variable here anymore. All I'm trying to show you is there are a multiple number of ways of doing this. That's all. All right. In fact, I think doing it like this, I could be wrong here. We'll find out right now. I think I can now make this a void and get rid of that return statement. Let's try it. Cannot convert void to an int. All right, I didn't change the type on that. So this has got to be that'll have to be an int, and I will need that return statement. I thought maybe I could do it without it, but return number grade. Return. Like that. That should still work. 56 should be a D, or an F, I guess, and it is. Run it again. 88 should be a B, and it is. Okay, still working. So again, there's a multiple number of ways always of doing the same thing. All right. Now, what they're doing here, there's nothing wrong with it. I don't use this feature, but some people love this. What they're saying is if you look at the code that's in yellow right there, all right, if you look at the code that's in yellow, what the author is basically saying is right there, that should be put into its own method or its own routine. So you can highlight it, and there is a keyboard combination, I don't remember what it is, that'll automatically refactor it for you. Let's see if we can find that. All right. No, not in VS Code, in Visual Studio. So how do you refactor? No. Refactoring, no. Refactoring, no, I don't want Visual Studio Code. I want it in Visual Studio. We'll put in here Community Edition. So it is Visual Studio 2022 Community Edition. Let's see if it finds that. What refactoring operations are available in Visual Studio? So this is an article by Microsoft itself. And they mention the languages that you can use. All right. And it says one is C#, extract a method refactoring. So it says highlight the code. So they're grabbing the code here. All right. Then from the keyboard, you can do a Control-R and a Control-M. Or you can do it using the mouse. I don't use that. That's just one more thing to learn that I find a little bit confusing, so I don't use it. There is nothing at all wrong with it. And if you think, oh, that's cool, hey, go for it. All right. Now here's ref. And I did show you ref before. When you use ref, basically you're passing the address, a reference, or the address of the variable. So any changes that you make are permanent changes. All right, and we're going to go through some examples of this as we go on in here. This is out. Out works much like ref, but ref passes the address. Out basically says this is a variable whose value has not yet been set. You're kind of making it write only, for lack of better words. All right. Two statements that work with this. And here's one, another way to work with it. Okay, this is the way I do it. When I use out, I give it the type as well. Okay, all right. Now here's in. I don't think I've ever used this. All right, and again, the clock is going to go off here, so. Now, I will tell you that I'm very much a proponent. In other words, I'm in favor of the Muroc books. I'd like to think I'm one of the reasons we use all the Muroc books we use. Now, if you hate Muroc's books, blame me. That's fine. But they try to explain everything that exists in a language, which is cool. That's not a problem. All right? But I think that if you use the in keyword, out means that it's write only. I think in means it's read only. I've never used it. All right? I've never used a tuple. But let me explain what a tuple is and why tuples are important. Technically, when you write a routine, you can only return one thing from a routine. One int, one string, one decimal. What you'll see when we get into Chapter 8 is you can also return an array. Don't worry right now about what that is, because we'll be going over it. But you can also return a tuple. When you return a tuple, it's similar to returning an array in that you are allowed to return multiple values. Okay? There's nothing wrong with it. I don't use it. Take a look at it. If you look at it and like it, use it all you want. That's cool. All right, I'm just going to jump to the last part here, the last 6 or 7 slides. The events for a text box control. All right. Now, people find this stuff that's in here to be very confusing. Object and event args. Object, notice it says sender. So object is basically what or whom made whatever it is you're working with happen. That's the sender. Event args are not going to be used very often except for a few different things, such as, well, one of the ways that event args is used is, let's say that you are writing a program, and in that program, you are working, let's say that you need to work with mouse positions. Maybe it's a program where you're moving the mouse on the screen, you're writing a game. All right? Then event args is used in that. All right? We're not going to be using object sender and event args much at all. We will look at it later on when we get into the database stuff. All right? Now, when you do this, this is something you don't type in, but when you basically wire up or set something equal to something else, quite often things happen behind the scenes where there'll be files that you don't play with or shouldn't play with, where things happen. This is an example of that. Okay? All right, how do you select an event handler for an event? Okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's it. Let me just show you 1 or 2 more things before we stop here. All right, I'm going to bring this up. And now this is a console program. You know that by looking at it. All right, but let's come in here, and I'm just going to quickly, very quickly, I'm going to throw in another program right here. Right here. All right, and I'm going to take this, and I'm going to add here, I want you to see this. I'm going to add a new project. It's going to be a Windows Forms app, and I'm just going to call it, this was called Chapter 6 stuff, and this will be Windows Forms app Chapter 06. All right, and there's a reason I'm showing you this. I'm going to put in here, going to be an unbelievably simplistic program. All right, so I'm going to view my toolbox, and I'm going to show it. Whoops, try it again. Why is it not doing that? There we go. All right, I'm going to put in here a label. I'm going to put in here a text box. Again, I'm not kidding you here. I'm doing this off the top of my head. And I'm going to put in another label. All right, We're going to fix these in just a moment. Then I'm going to put in 3 buttons. Oops, don't want to do that. First, let's resize and put in these 3 buttons. Make them a little smaller than that. There we go. There's 1 button, 2 buttons, 3 buttons. Okay. All right. Doesn't look too bad. Let's change the color of this because I hate the gray background color here. Make it that. All right. Now I'm going to change, and I'm going to make this big. Oh, about like that. And I'm going to make these 2 bigger as well. Remember, I have to go over to auto size and set that to false. Now I can come in here. All right. And I want this one to be even bigger than the other one is. About like that. All right. So let's grab these things. Let's make them a little darker so you can see them. All right. I'm going to make the text for these 2 things white. So that'll be my 4 color. You can see it now. All right. And I'm going to take everything that's in here, and I'm going to change the font size for everything. We're going to make it 20 point, bold, and Arial. There you go. All right. These should both be a little wider. There. All right. There's not much more I want to do here, believe it or not. I want to grab these 2 things, and I want to center both of these. So I'm going to come down to align, put it right in the center. There that is. I want this to be centered. This is a text align, so I want to set that to center. And let's give all these names. All right. So I'm going to put here LBL, enter your name. All right. And it says enter your name, so it's now enter your name. And hopefully it's big enough, but we'll find out right now. So enter your name. There you go. And this isn't going to have anything in it for right now. I'm going to leave this empty. And I'm going to call this LBL welcome message. All right. And this was called LBL enter your name. So this is going to be called TXT enter your name. Try that again. So TXT enter your name. All right, this button will be called calculate. So BTN calculate. And we'll put in here for the name, or the text, ampersand calculate. This one will be clear. So the text will be C ampersand LEAR, and its name will be BTN clear. And this one will be BTN exit. And the text will be E ampersand XIT. That's my whole thing. That's everything I wanted to build. All right, I do want to take these 2, just these 2, because I'm a little anal this way. And I want to line those up right there. And let's see, let's make this one, we'll make that nice and big. And we'll make this one bigger as well. There we go. All right. So I've locked my interface into place. Why am I doing all this? Well, what I want to do is when I click this, when I click calculate, if I put Jeff here, I want it to say, hello, Jeff. That's it. Real simple. All right, so calculate. So the first thing I'm going to do in here is I'm going to call another routine. Remember, we're trying to modularize. All right, so here we will type in verify name inputted. Okay, and private, I'm going to do like I did before with a Boolean, and I'm going to call it keep going. equals verify name inputted, bool, and that'll be this. Okay, and I'm going to have in here bool retval equal true. All right, now I'm going to say here if txt enter your name dot text dot trim, which means remove any beginning or ending spaces. If that's equal to nothing, we entered nothing in for the name. So retval equal false, and then return retval. So you're going to come in here and you're going to check. If there was nothing put in for the name, we're going to set it to false and we're not going to keep going. Otherwise, we will keep going. So if keep going, I'll call this present greeting. All right. Else, I'm just going to say return. All right. Now, I haven't written present greeting yet, so let's write that right now. Private void present greeting. And all it's going to do, it's real simple, one line of code. It's going to say LBL welcome message equal hello followed by txt enter your name dot text. That's it. And that's LBL welcome message dot text. That's it. All right. Now, why am I doing this? This seems almost too simplistic. There's a reason. Give me a second here. First, let's make that our active program by right mouse clicking on Windows Forms and choosing Set a Startup Project. Now, what you'll notice is if I run this and I don't put anything in here and I click Calculate, nothing happens. That's what I told it to do. All right. But if I put in here Jeffrey, Paul, Scott, and I click it, says, hello, Jeffrey, Paul, Scott. The clear isn't operational, neither is the exit, because we didn't put that code in. All right, let's put that code in right now. All right, so we'll call this clear form private void clear form, and we'll say LBL enter your name dot text is equal to nothing. LBL welcome message dot text is equal to nothing, and txt enter your name dot text is equal to nothing, and finally txt enter your name dot focus. That should do that. Let's see if that works. Again, I'm just going to put some garbage in there. Calculate, clear. Okay, I don't want to clear this. I don't want to clear this. I only want to clear what's in there. All right, so I cleared these two things when I shouldn't have. All right, so let's try that again. All right, I do want to clear this one. All right, so one should be cleared, not the other one. So the welcome message should be cleared. That should fix it. Good. All right, exit doesn't work because we didn't put anything in there for exit. All right, I'm going to go back to one of the older programs and see if I can grab that. We call that exit program or not. So we'll do that here. Let's fix that. And then I can show you the reason I'm doing this. So exit program or not. All right. Private void exit program or not. And that's all of that. What don't you like here? Space cannot. There we go. So this should be working now. The whole program should be. I think I've missed a curly brace when I accidentally put it in the wrong place. So exit no, exit yes. Okay, that's all working. Now I'm doing all this, and I come into here, and I accidentally double click on this, and it puts in private void txt, enter your name, text changed, and I'm like, I don't want that, and I just remove it. The problem is if I manually remove it right there, it doesn't remove it from the system file that's in here. So if I want to go in and remove this line, all of this code, I'll just put my cursor right here so you can see that. But if I want to remove all of this code, what I do is I go back into design mode, all right, and I click on it. And then in here, I click on the thing that looks like a lightning bolt, and I find the text changed. I highlight that code, hit backspace to remove it, and now what you'll notice is that code is gone. That's how you remove if you put in something you didn't mean to put in. Now I've got txtl in here for both of these. I don't know why. But I'm going to try something, see if it works. All right. I'm going to come into here, and there, it's got txtl right there. And I want to put the name in there correctly. Oops. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to right mouse click on it. Let's see. I guess it wouldn't like it from here. I'm going to click on it, and then over here, I'm going to change the name to txt without an L on it. That should fix it. Fixed all those. Now this, did that have an L on it? No. Did that? Yes. This is called LBL. Enter. I guess that one is okay. So let's see now if we look at the code. Hopefully that fixed everything. All right. So does this work still? Jeff. Okay, I didn't set cancel button. Let's do that. Let's go back into here, into our design mode. Click over here. Let's set the default location to center screen. Let's set the accept button to BTN calculate, the cancel button to BTN clear, and let's set our tab order, which will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So view tab order 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do another view tab order to make those numbers go away. Click. And now, if I do put in here Jeff and just hit enter, okay. And if I hit escape, all that works. All right, we're done with chapter 6. So I'm going to come back and we're going to look at chapter 7 momentarily. I'll see you soon.